And welcome to Thrift Biography. This is the one about Jennifer Grey. Thank you for listening. Hello, Cleo.
Hello, Richard.
How are you?
Well, I'm very well, actually. How are you?
Oh, I've been having the time of my life. Did we say that when we did the Patrick Swayze book?
Oh, I've no memory.
I think we probably did.
Oh, well, one joke wonders.
Yeah, it's an easy joke. So this week, I found the Jennifer Grey book a couple of months ago. Do you remember?
Yeah.
But we've just got around to reading it now.
Yep, and it's called Out of the Corner.
Out of the Corner.
And do you know what? It's one of the most recent books, as in published, because it was only published in 2022. Oh, we've had a few, I guess. Quite a lot of people wrote their memoirs in lockdown, didn't they?
Yeah, right.
This is definitely one of them.
Yes.
And she actually says at the end of this book, like many other people, she says, everyone should write their memoirs. It is so good for you to work out who you are, who you used to be, what you used to dream of. I think this is a brilliant book.
Oh.
Do you?
Yeah, do you know what? I kind of, even though when I found it and it kind of got put on the pile, and then we thought, well, do you know what? We should get around to reading her. Yeah. And I kind of was just kind of thinking, oh, it's just going to be like a generic book. And then I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it.
A little bit girly, I thought. It's a bit girly to read The Woman from Dirty Dancing. Oh, my God, she's not girly at all. She's hardcore rock and roll.
Yeah, she really
excellent
is.
person.
Yeah.
And she speaks it exactly as it is.
Yeah.
She doesn't shy away from telling you the dark truths.
Yeah.
I mean, she just speaks in her own voice. You can hear her voice, which is a voice you didn't know she had.
Yeah.
Because she's never shown herself before.
So what did you know about her before you read the book?
I just sort of imagined I knew her, that's all. I'd never even seen an interview. I sort of imagined I thought I knew who she was, just this weedy girl from Dirty Dancing. I kind of probably thought she was similar to that character. I hadn't really thought about it. How wrong. What about you?
Well, I only realised when I read this book that I only know her from being the girl in Dirty Dancing, a film I've never really watched all the way through. And then I only realised that I have not ever seen or heard from her since, I don't think.
Yeah.
And then that made me think, why?
I did know she'd had that nose job. Did you know about that?
No, but I mean, fair play to her for talking about that. Anyway, should we just get straight into it? Because there's so much to talk about.
We'll get into
which
it.
Is really surprises me. And there's so much showbiz stuff.
Oh,
and,
so much.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, let's do it.
Let's
it's
go.
Exciting. Jennifer Grey.
Yes. Well, straight away, the biggest bombshell to me is that her dad's Joel Grey from Cabaret, the MC from Cabaret, who I would have gone, well, that's a gay man. How can he be her dad? Oh, of course he can be her dad. Of course there's loads of exceptions to those rules. But I just never knew. That was the same surname connected them.
Yeah, it's a common surname, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would never have put those two people together.
No.
Not least because he is a gay man. But it turns out through this book that for a long time he actually wasn't living as a gay man.
No, a huge amount.
But I haven't seen, sorry, strike me down, but I've not ever seen Dirty Dancing and I've not ever seen Cabaret either, so I have no concept of this man.
Oh, Cabaret I absolutely love.
Really?
Yeah. And nobody can beat him in that part.
Okay.
He's amazing. And he set the standard high. But anyway, basically, this is a massively showbiz background.
Yeah.
I mean, she totally grew up around showbiz. And her dad's dad, he was called Mickey Katz, and he's a legend in the Jewish world of entertainment.
Had you heard of him?
Never heard of him, but I'm very unlikely to have, because it's niche. He's a legend to Jewish people.
American
and
as
American.
well.
And this is what we've read. He's from Latvian and Lithuanian heritage. And he just formed this act where he took popular songs of the day, which would be, I don't know, like you're talking 1920s or something, aren't you? 20s, 30s. And then changed the words to become funny to Jewish people. So instead of how much is that doggy in the window, is how much is that pickle in the window, which must be a funny Jewish joke. And it became a legend and ended up on TV. And so everyone knew who he was. And then he roped in Joel Grey as a kid to join his act. So, I mean, they're proper hoofers, you know, travelling around America, doing cabarets.
So he was perfect to be in Cabaret. That was his life since a child.
Yeah, he really was. And then Jennifer Grey's mother was Jo Wilder, who was an actress and singer. And yeah, her CV's amazing. It's like she played Peter Pan, she played Gypsy in the musical Gypsy. Played Polly Peachum in Threepenny Opera. I mean, she was like absolutely nailing it, killing it on the circuit as a working actress. Really great.
Mm-hmm.
And then she meets her fellow, and they were in their late 20s when they met and had kids. She had a miscarriage, then she had Jennifer Grey. And because she'd struggled to come to term, they adopted another kid, Jimmy. So that made their little family complete. And then Joel Grey was so upset when they were apart, when his wife was in a show, that he nearly had a breakdown. So she gave up her career right there.
Yeah, I didn't like this at all. So she had her successful career and he had his successful acting career. But he was He was in LA making a film, and she had a really good part on Broadway, right?
Yeah. It was a show with Hal Prince directing, who did Cabaret and is a total legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had to drop out.
So it was a good job.
Yeah.
And then Joel Grey is calling her saying, I can't be away from my baby and my wife, and really saying I'm having a hard time. You have to come out here. So in a way, he's saying to her, my career is more important. He didn't go home to her.
Of course.
She had to give up everything and go to him.
Yeah, it's the thing that happened in the history of all time.
Yeah.
It probably still mostly happens now.
And actually,
with some exceptions.
Jennifer Grey says she talked to her mum about it when she was older, and her mum said, well, we both had acting careers and it wasn't working, and one of us had to give it up, and she just felt that the dad needed it more. Well,
then she ended up with his mum, who sang at her every minute. Sang at her in the bath. You know, she was the audience of one.
Yeah, right.
Probably quite taxing.
I mean, that must be so frustrating if all of a sudden you're a Broadway star and then you've kind of almost been forced to give it up.
Yeah. I don't know if she went back to it. She might have.
Yeah, but who knows what would have happened? She may have been a really big star, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, shouldn't have had a baby.
So, yeah, her childhood. She was born in 1960 in New York City. It seems to me, through this book, that the actor's life, the successful actors' lives, especially in those days, is just going between New York and LA.
Yeah.
Like Broadway or Hollywood,
Yeah.
back and forth. That's what these people did, isn't
Yeah,
it?
definitely.
When she was actually born in 1960, she was technically born in Hollywood. Her mother was at a party in West Hollywood, and her dad was doing cabaret in the Catskills, right where Dirty Dancing was set, which is right back New York way. And that's when she was born. Two actors had to drive her mum to hospital from a party in Hollywood. Can you get more showbiz than that? Yeah, so from when she was 6 to 8 years old, her dad was in Cabaret, the musical, on the stage on Broadway for 2 years. She was backstage and she just describes it so well. It's so exciting, you know, watching her dad put the makeup on, going all the way to the side of the stage with the stage manager, watching the show, you know, watching all those people who are legends. A lot of them, I think, went into the film. How exciting.
Yeah, and on Saturdays, she was allowed to hang out like between the matinee and the evening show. I guess it might have been the only time she really got to see her dad, maybe.
And then went out with them all after.
Yeah.
That's how you grow up fast. Well, that's why she was older than her years by the time she was about 14, because when you've been around adults like that, and especially at the theatre, they treat you like an adult. She said her parents never hid anything from her, so she knew way too much.
And she also said, you know, like the dinner parties and stuff that her mum and dad had, it was all really prestigious people, not just like performers and stuff, but academics and writers and composers.
Yeah.
So she really grew up around this scene. And she actually says that she never met anyone. None of her parents' friends had a job. So it's not that they were just creative people. They were actually successful creative people.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody had a job on the side.
No. Her mum worked for Gloria Steinem at Ms magazine. And I thought, I
Yeah.
feel like I should know who she is. And I Googled her. She's like the leading feminist of the time. Did you know that?
I've got her autobiography. I found it in a thrift shop in America.
Oh, amazing. We better read that.
Yeah.
Then I'll know. We're going to be so knowledgeable someday.
Someday.
In like 30 years.
We're going to know all about tragic and traumatized people.
Yeah. But their Christmas yearly parties were always at Hal Prince's house. And she said people like Leonard Bernstein, Stephen Sondheim, Canda Renier, Patti LuPone, Adolph Green, Elaine Stritch. It's like the who's who of musical theatre. And then they'd all end up drunk and singing around the piano with Sondheim playing the piano. Brilliant.
Wow.
How do you go up from there?
Well, lots of people don't, I guess.
Well, yeah.
It is a lot to live up to.
She almost didn't, actually.
It's interesting. She almost didn't. In some ways, she kind of didn't.
Yeah.
She had a very interesting career, actually. But don't you find it weird that she didn't go into theatre or even musical theatre or even
Yeah,
theatre?
no, but she did audition. She just didn't get in.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a real story of somebody who didn't quite live up to their parents' reputation, maybe.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it? You could be a jobbing actor and work your ass off for your lifetime. Or you could do one show that's a massive hit and never live it down and be more famous than your hard grafting theatrical parents.
Yeah. I was interested to see that her dad, when they made the film version of Cabaret, he actually won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. I never knew that. And that was in the year that The Godfather came out. So he was nominated against Al Pacino, Robert Duvall and James Caan, and he won.
It's amazing that he won that.
Yeah, I must see it.
Oh, God. I can't
must
believe
see
it. It's an absolute class piece of utter excellence. It's really interesting because she says that both her parents had nose jobs, right, to just shave off a bit of the Jewishness off their noses. And apparently, she says, her dad's family all did that before them as well. It was like a really big thing in the 50s, all these...
Yes.
And they said they weren't trying to hide that they were Jewish, but you just shouldn't lead with it. You know, it just shouldn't be the first thing people think of. She said, my dad never got Jewish parts. He was just an actor. And so they were always telling her, you should get a nose job. So that's all very interesting because it's a build-up to her nose job, which changed her life. We will come to that in a while.
It changed her face.
Changed the face of her career.
Yes, it did.
Oh, God.
So she is moving, as she's growing up and becoming a teenager, she's totally moving between New York and LA. And she likes the lifestyle in LA because
she's in Malibu.
Yeah, it's very hippie-ish. It's like the beginning of the 70s.
It's the whole scene we read about in Rob Lowe, isn't it?
Do you know what? See, she says at one point, she's in a class with Sean Penn. And I thought, Rob Lowe was in this area the same time as Sean Penn. So Jennifer Grey must be 2 years older than Rob Lowe, I'm guessing from
That's right. And his description of Malibu wins so far. She's brilliant at describing stuff, but he really captures this feeling of this really small villagey town on the outskirts of Hollywood that was really alternative and surfers and rock dudes and stoners and a lot of old actors and stuff. And she is in exactly that environment.
So she's a teenager in a completely different city with a whole new set of friends. And who, you know, this is Malibu in the 1970s. They're all wearing caftans and smoking spliffs and stuff and just having fun.
I tell you what, she wanted to have fun and it was dreaming of boys and all that stuff, but she wasn't doing any of it. She said all those people were getting stoned and drunk and snogging everybody and all that was going on, but she didn't partake at all. She was the good girl. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't till later that she went off the rails, and then she really went. When she went, she went.
She really went off the rails.
Do you know what? That school in Oakwood in LA, she said it was a very progressive school and none of the teachers wore bras. It's really weird.
Yeah, it's one way of being progressive.
It must have been a thing in the 60s.
Yeah, you burnt the bras. It's just symbolic of feminism, isn't it? Burning the bras is a way of keeping women constrained, and so it was symbolic that they would burn them.
She was at a school with teachers who didn't wear them, so that's an interesting point, I found.
Did the boys get any work done?
I don't know.
You know, Sean Penn, he doesn't seem too intelligent, so perhaps that's why. He was distracted in class. That's the thing of feminism, you see. Now we've got to the bottom of it. They burnt their bras so the boys would be distracted in class, so the girls would leave with higher marks.
Get really intelligent and take over the world.
There you go. That's what it was all about.
Right. Genius. Okay, so, yeah, she's back in New York in 1974 at the age of 14 because her dad's part in Broadway is Good Time Charlie, which he was in with a young Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
Interesting crossover. Anyway, it broke her heart. I can relate to this. I had to move when you've just made friends and it really breaks your heart. But you do get strong. You get to be more nomadic from it.
Right,
so then she starts feeling really different from everybody. She said she felt like she had a different level of sexual energy And then at some point she thinks she should have been diagnosed as ADHD. And if so, she'd have had medication. She might have calmed down a bit.
You know what? She says an interesting thing near the beginning, where it's the night of the Oscars and they're in the hotel room. Obviously, Jennifer and her brother are young, so they can't go, but the mum and dad are getting ready in the hotel room. Her dad is nominated for an Oscar, and before he goes, he puts a pill in his mouth, and little Jennifer says to him, "What's that for?" And he says, "Oh, I'm nervous. It will stop me from being nervous." And she says, "I took a mental note that if you get nervous, you take a pill."
Yeah, right. First time she got stoned, it was with her dad. Because he said, look, if you're going to try it, you might as well do it with me. Then you'll be safe.
Oh, she said it was just weird.
Yeah, she said she's stoned with her dad. And that's all she could think of. I'm stoned with my dad. This is wrong.
Oh, I think it is wrong. I think he should have said to her, just go out with your mates and just be sensible about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's weird.
Well, let's face it, right? They're actors. They're not straight. I mean, he literally wasn't. But, you know, they're not. They're actors. You know what I mean? Enough said. They're not normal people. It's all going on.
So they're back in New York and she's hating it, but they do let her travel back to LA on her own, like she's still a young teenager.
Yeah, no, she goes back on her own to LA. She's 14 to have her braces taken out, and she's staying with her granddad, Mickey.
Oh, yeah.
And his wife. Yeah, and the caretaker of their building, who's a trusted, lovely old man. Basically, it's a long story, but essentially he attempts to rape her.
Afterwards, when she ran back and she told her grandparents, they were just like, "Oh, well, he wouldn't
they
do
didn't
that.
believe
He's
her.
lovely," because they really trusted him.
I know, it's a classic case.
And then when she told her dad,
oh my God, that's the worst.
Is there anything
that's the
more
worst.
inappropriate that he could have said to her?
Oh my God, because she'd been on this date earlier that day, and she'd never been on a date before, ever. And nothing came of it. She'd just gone out with this boy for lunch. And yes, she had a massive crush on him, but she was an absolute innocent virgin. He dropped her back, and her dad said, "Well, you were probably still juicy after that date." He used that word.
It's so grossly inappropriate.
Oh my God, it's awful. And she said at that point, I couldn't trust anybody to help me if I needed help. That's absolutely dreadful.
Poor girl.
And she said a lot of crazy stuff happens to her, you know, coming up. And she just said all of these things she compartmentalised and went, I guess that's the sort of thing that just happens to you when you get older. Yes, it is, but it doesn't make it right. It doesn't mean you just absorb it and carry on. And I think we're changing a bit now.
Well,
really
we would
hope
hope. So. I mean, I think we kind of like always think, oh, we move on as society, and then something always happens that drags us right back again. I don't know. I don't know if it's just like the limitations of human nature, that we're just animals and men are predators. And anyway, when she's 15, she's in New York, she kind of really does start becoming fiercely independent and striking out on her own.
And then she also made friends with this woman called Maggie Jacobson, who they just totally hit it off, who's a year older than her, and was Janice in Friends.
Yeah, amazing.
So who knew Janice in Friends was as cool as this? Because she was clearly... Wow, it's really interesting. She says that her parents were really rich. Her dad was a stockbroker, and her mum worked at the Museum of Modern Art, and their house was full of art, a 4-storey Upper East Side brownstone, and her parents were out more than mine, she says.
Wow.
And it's like she just sort of moulded her. Maggie moulded Jennifer from this girl who didn't know anything to wearing the right clothes, smoking the right cigarettes, going out in the town. It was the two of them. Can you imagine Janice from Friends and Baby from Dirty Dancing going to all the gay bars? They went to see Divine in Greenwich Village. They were going to...
Oh, they were having a whale of a
groupies
time.
of the Rocky Horror Show with Tim Curry. You know, I mean, they were having the best life, and it was seemingly kind of harmless thing.
Yeah, I love reading about that. They were just having a lot of fun.
They really were. Yeah. Well, Frank, she met this bloke, Frank, in a clothes shop. She was in a vintage shop with her parents, and she just chatted him up because she was absolutely desperate to sleep with somebody. She's 15 and a half, and she basically chatted him up and shagged him, and she barely knew him, but they ended up going out with each other for a year, leading up to when she met this hairdresser, because she was 16 and a half then when she met this hairdresser. Well, she went for the best haircut ever.
Yeah, and he was a bit of a local celebrity, and all the women loved him. And I think she was kind of a bit excited about that, and she liked that he was flirting with her.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was really quite surprised that he then took her out to lunch and they ended up back at his flat.
Yeah, well, he gave her the best haircut that existed. There's a picture of it.
Oh, there's a photo in this, but yeah, she looks great.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be that because she explained that he was a Lothario and he bedded all the women that came into his salon. But actually, no, that ended up in a 2-year relationship.
But their life, she was only 16 and a half and they were doing coke, drinking champagne.
Yeah.
A normal night was just coke, champagne, weed, cigarettes, out to Studio 54. That's the coolest part.
Yeah, she was there as a 16-year-old.
Dancing all night, going for breakfast, and then going to school.
Yeah, she's kind of just alludes to a couple of things when she's talking about Studio 54, because she would go home with this hairdresser and hang out with his friends, and obviously everybody's a little bit older than her, and she kind of says that she was there with predators, and the way she lived her life, she considered herself at the time that she was a predator going after these men. But now she realizes as an older person, no, that those men were predators and they were taking advantage of her. So she doesn't say too much, but I think she says enough. And she actually says that now she has a daughter. If she thought of her daughter at 16 years old, going out and doing what she did at 16, she says it makes her feel physically sick.
Yeah, she's horrified now.
But at the time, she wanted to be grown up.
Yeah.
She thought she was in control and she thought she was an out. Actually, she was off her head a lot.
I know.
So it's quite dark, really, I think, what she went through as a 16-year-old.
Yeah, it's cool on paper, but it doesn't. And she's in one sentence, a throwaway sentence, she just said, what I got from that relationship was STDs, a lot of cheating and unwanted pregnancies.
Wow.
And that's just like in one sentence.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, right, shit. That was really bad.
Yeah.
Really, really bad. So, yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, like there's documented cases of like Drew Barrymore and Brooke Shields being too young and being off their heads at 13 and being in Studio 54. Actually, Jennifer Grey is that.
She is. It's weird that she's missed out of the law of Studio 54 because I've never heard that she was there.
I didn't know. And it actually makes me wonder how many other 14, 15, 16-year-old girls were there, actually.
So true. So true.
We just know about a couple of famous ones.
Mm.
God, it's just debauchery, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And her parents were back in Malibu again without her at this point. So she was living with this hairdresser.
So she's actually, her parents kind of said to her they didn't want her to be an actor, even though she felt like she wanted to be one, obviously, because that was a world she existed in. And because her dad had been a child star of sorts with his own dad, they kind of put off Jennifer's dream of being an actor. But of course, when she's becoming a bit more independent, she keeps on at them. And then finally they relent. And they say, okay, well, you know, give it a go. So she goes and gets some headshots done.
Oh, the headshots
and the
chapter.
photographer absolutely ruins
It's terrible.
ruins her confidence.
Oh, my God. She's so happy. She's so happy. She's done her hair all nice. And it's like, smile. Oh, no, not like that. Oh, no, less than that. Oh, no. It's like that. And it just goes down and down and down. And oh, my God, I thought, please let there be a picture on the last page in the chapter. It's a picture of the most unsure of herself little girl you've ever seen.
Yeah.
She's just like, her whole eyebrows are going, why? What? I don't know who I am.
That photographer absolutely broke her.
That's just the worst photographer ever.
Yeah.
There's certain pointers that have crucified her. That's one. Another time in the summer, her mum had looked at her and her little brother and gone to her little brother, you are absolutely beautiful. Whereas you, Jennifer, are interesting. And that had crushed her soul.
Yeah. Interesting.
Interesting. She actually said, that's all I remember of the whole summer.
Wow.
Bloody hell. Amazing what can damage people.
Yeah, and what sticks with you.
Yeah.
It's like telling little David Hasselhoff he's got skinny legs that stayed with him his whole life.
Yeah, I know. Oh, that girl's headshot, though. No wonder she said, I auditioned for everything, didn't get anything. Well, no wonder.
Yeah.
Look at that headshot. It's terrible.
Yeah, she said so. She auditioned for Juilliard, didn't get it.
Twice.
Which kind of goes to show, people think that nepotism goes a long way. Actually, this just goes to show either it doesn't or she was really, really bad. They just thought, no, we're not taking her, sorry.
Well, she hadn't had any acting lessons.
Yeah.
She didn't know how to do it.
She's not been allowed to.
No, she's not been allowed to.
So in a way, having famous acting parents can actually work against your career.
Yeah, definitely.
But she does finally get accepted into like a neighbourhood playhouse school of the theatre. Is that where her mum went?
It is, yeah.
Is that where her mum was with Steve McQueen?
Yeah.
Steve McQueen used to take her out on the back of his motorbike. I mean, how amazing would that be?
Yeah, how cool is that?
Yeah, but Jennifer gets accepted there. So she's finally getting some experience of acting.
Getting trained, but it's the Meisner technique. And he actually was teaching there. That's quite a famous technique, and that was right from the horse's mouth at that place, where they break you to make you. So it's pretty hard.
And they did break her. Is it the place where the first thing they said to her, are you spoiled?
Yeah.
Because they know obviously who her mum and dad are. But she kind of liked it in a way, eventually liked it, because she said she'd always been the daughter of somebody famous.
Yeah.
And she said before she'd even said anything, people have this idea about her, and she was never, ever herself. She was always somebody's daughter. And I think here, because they're breaking her down, she's allowing to become herself.
Yeah, it's good.
And then she never books a job.
No.
She just says it's just constant rejection.
Yeah. I know, it's bad.
For like 2 years or whatever.
Yeah.
But then again, you see, maybe it's because she's not an instant beauty.
It could be.
She looks different. And there's this pressure on her to get rid of her prominent nose. And she doesn't want to do it. She realises it's part of her. So she really, really resists it. But it might be why she's not getting booked for jobs.
It's possible. She was the youngest person ever to graduate from that school. And then she got a few jobs. She was an understudy for a while. And then she got an acting job. And then she got cast in the Cotton Club, Francis Ford Coppola, which was Richard Gere was the lead. And actually, she wasn't cast in it. She was just a stand-in. And Jennifer Jason Leigh was the part.
They were having a table read. This is Francis Ford Coppola was having a table read of the Cotton Club.
Yeah.
So she was just given the job to go and stand in for Jennifer Jason Leigh, who was filming elsewhere. So she just went to do the table read of that part. And then Francis Ford Coppola as well. We know this again from the Rob Lowe book. He does lots of standing up and getting into character and improvising.
Yes.
And so Jennifer Grey was standing in for Jennifer Jason Leigh, playing opposite a very young Nicolas Cage. So they workshop it, waiting for Jennifer Jason Leigh to turn up. Then Jennifer Jason Leigh gets a better offer.
Yeah.
Then the producer says to Jennifer Grey, you can audition for the part if you want. And then she got it.
It's ridiculous. She had to audition.
Yeah, it is.
All those readings if you only need to audition.
Yeah,
anyway,
maybe it was just a formality. But I guess, you know what? She's an untested property at this point.
Yeah, it was probably a screen test, wasn't it? See what your nose looks like on the screen.
Yes. So she gets a part in the Cotton Club, and she's on that film for months.
Mm.
And she does lots of scenes. Again, this is like the Rob Lowe thing. This is her first film. She's done loads of work on it. She's very excited, like Rob Lowe was in The Outsiders.
Yeah, it's right. It's exactly the same.
They go to the screening and she's all but cut out of it. So she's hugely disappointed.
I know. It's not good if you're actually sensitive, isn't it?
Yeah. It was so disappointing.
I know.
Yeah, and her dad actually was really underwhelmed with it, and he told her he doesn't big her up.
No, he doesn't.
You know what? I think he's, like what he was like with his wife.
Mm.
I think there's more to it. I think he didn't want to be overshadowed by her to the point where the wife gave up, Jennifer's mum gave up her career. And I think he doesn't want to be overshadowed by his daughter now.
It's quite possible.
Yeah, I think I don't like him.
Maybe that's why, she said he wept after the Dirty Dancing premiere and she'll never know why. Maybe that's why, because he realised the baton's been passed over.
Yeah. So before the Cotton Club comes out, she gets a part in another film called Red Dawn with a certain actor called
Patrick Swayze.
Patrick Swayze. Because we read his book a couple of months ago. And we know, because he talks about this film in his book, that actually he says that him and Jennifer didn't get on. But we find out why in Jennifer Grey's book.
Yeah. Totally interesting to hear her side of it.
Yeah.
She basically had two big scenes in this film. One was a love scene and one was her death. And he ruined the love scene by being so drunk he couldn't remember any of his lines, and they basically had to stop filming and they never went back to it. So that's really, really shit for her. She's trying to make it.
Yeah.
And she's just being sabotaged. And the second time, it was the night before her big death scene. and she hears gunshots outside her apartment, and she's terrified. She doesn't sleep all night. And she finds out the next day that Patrick Swayze put firecrackers in the frame of her door.
Yeah, they were on location in a really rough area, so she didn't feel safe anyway. And she was in her room, and all of a sudden all these gunshots are going off. And of course, Patrick Swayze's a prankster. He's probably drunk and he thinks it's hilarious, not considering that young woman on her own in a hotel room in a horrible area is going to be actually petrified. So she didn't sleep the night before her big dying scene. So when she gets to set, she's absolutely furious with Patrick Swayze. She said she felt he sabotaged her performance.
Yeah.
So that really explains why.
It does.
In Patrick Swayze's book, he says, Jennifer had an attitude with me. It's like, you didn't say you absolutely terrified her and then fucked up her other scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The tension between them in Dirty Dancing is probably geniusly created by this, because they were perfect. The whole conflict between them in Dirty Dancing is probably...
Well, let's get on to Dirty Dancing.
Can we just skip by Ferris Bueller, because it's a legendary film.
I didn't even know she was in it. Mind you, I haven't seen Ferris Bueller. Sorry, I haven't seen Dirty Dancing, I haven't seen Cabaret, I haven't seen Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, oh my God, these are the best films ever. All right, Ferris Bueller's an absolutely brilliant film. Total teenage, just joy. And she gets the part. Matthew Broderick's her brother. And they don't have any scenes together until right near the end, and then they actually start having an affair. I say affair because he's already got a girlfriend, and that seems to be his pattern. He just has a girlfriend and then shags everybody whilst he's on a set, and then hides it duplicitously. Mm-hmm. And he did the same to Sarah Jessica Parker, didn't he? I think he was shagging the nanny when they were married.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think they split up for a bit but got back together. So he's a bit of a dodgy fellow.
Oh, dear. Yeah, I don't like him at all. Not
I
really
know, same here. And at 24, he's a moody git. Okay, so they were together when she went to the audition for Dirty Dancing. And he said the night before her audition, I don't know what I'm worried about. There's no way you're going to get it.
Yeah.
That's the opposite of encouraging. That is bollocks. She should have left him there and then.
Do you know what? It's these insecure men again.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think this is almost a bit like her dad making her mum give up her career.
Before it's even started.
Because he didn't want to share the spotlight.
What a load of crap.
And I think Matthew Broderick is doing a similar thing with Jennifer Grey here.
Well, he definitely is, and it goes on and on.
Yeah, no, it definitely goes on and on. Yeah, he's just really trying to restrict her career.
Yeah.
Oh, he's an arsehole. I don't like him at all.
And he's kind of succeeded. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
anyway, she got the part. Ha ha.
Yeah, well, she gets the part. They really like her. And it's interesting, isn't it, that this is the first proper lead that she got. And even though the character is 17 and she's 26 at this point, the reason she got that part is because of the way she looked.
Yeah.
So she was right in not getting her nose shaved off. They needed somebody who looked Jewish. They needed somebody who wasn't a knockout beauty, somebody who looked very normal but could be considered attractive.
Yeah. And wasn't the best dancer.
Yes. So she got this completely on her own merit of being quite an average person.
Yes, she did. She was perfect. And she fully related to the whole thing of coming out from your parents' shadows and all that. She's like, I was that person. I learned loads about the Catskills in this book. They called the Jewish Alps, which I had no idea that it was specifically really for Jewish rich Americans. And then they said that because they filmed it in Virginia and North Carolina, they weren't any Jewish people there. They couldn't get enough extras. Anyway, they go through all the history, all the filming stories, and there's loads. If you're a Dirty Dancing fan, you'll love to read this.
Well, interestingly, when she's cast first, so when they're trying to sort out the male lead, they come in and read with her, and Billy Zane comes in, and she likes him, and then when she hears the name Patrick Swayze, she absolutely freezes and she says, there's no way I'm doing it with him.
It's like, please, no.
She goes, trust me, he's not right.
Yeah.
And she says, it doesn't matter what she said. They were really sure that he was a person because, he is perfect for it.
He completely is perfect.
And so she didn't want him. And then they do some scenes together. Actually, she said the choreographer, Kenny Ortega. Why do I know that name?
He's an absolute legend, right? He choreographed all of Michael Jackson's big shows, right up to even the one at the end is the one that never happened. This is it. He even choreographed that. He's absolute legend.
She said that when he was teaching her to dance, and she said she really got into it and she really loved it. She had really good chemistry with Kenny Ortega. And then when it was time to dance with Patrick Swayze, she just lost it again. She found it really difficult to dance with him.
Yeah.
So it's not just a case of her being frustrated with him. There's no chemistry there with the dancing. But like you say, the actual finished film, it works in the film because this is what's going on between the characters.
Yeah, because he's trying to teach her to dance. She's trying to learn and she can't do it. And he's getting annoyed that she's a rubbish dancer. And she's thinking he's a dickhead for treating her like that. And that was exactly what was actually happening. That's why it comes across so well. It's kind of genius.
Yeah, because it was such a low budget film. Nobody had high expectations for it.
Yeah, it was pretty much going to go straight to video.
It was just this little sleeper film. The producers had a small $4 million budget. And it was the first time the company were making a film. So it was just really quite low key.
And it just built.
Yeah, and it just builds. So if you're a Dirty Dancing fan, I would say read this book over Patrick Swayze's for Dirty Dancing.
I'd say read both. It's great to get both sides.
Of course, yeah. So they wrap Dirty Dancing, and then so she's waiting for this film to come out. And in the meantime, she's still with Matthew Broderick.
Idiot.
And he's obviously a successful actor, so he's off filming different films, and she goes and visits him. But while he's away, Matthew Broderick's mum is poorly, and Jennifer Grey goes to see her. I mean, Matthew Broderick's mum sounds like a real arsehole, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does sound like a piece of work.
Anyway, it's through this visit that Matthew Broderick's mum says to her, "Oh, your dad's gay." And Jennifer Grey's like, "No, he's not." And Matthew Broderick's mum like, "Yes, he is. Everybody knows. How can you not know? The only people who don't know are you and your mum."
Exactly.
Wow.
But she says it like because she came up in the theatre at the same time as her parents. So she had a bit more of a gravitas about her knowledge than most people going, "Your dad's a bit camp." So she went home and phoned her dad, and her dad went, "Yeah, we need to talk." And he spilled it all out. And she said the sadness that she retains to this day is the fact that he never could be truthful. You know, he had to hide himself because he'd said to his mum he was gay when he was 16 and she smashed him down, basically. And then also he decided he wanted a family. But he wrote a book, apparently, and came out when he was 82.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, I'd love to read that, actually. You know
Me
what?
too.
It's not easy to be born in like 1920 and be gay. And,
no, exactly.
Yeah.
And you want a family. Now you can have one and still be out, but you couldn't then.
Yeah,
Well,
but at the same time, I think it's, you know, that kind of thing is hard on the wife, you know?
It's really
I'd
hard,
also
and
like
yet-
to know how Jennifer Grey's mum felt about it all, actually.
yeah, well, exactly. Obviously, when they divorced, which was around this time, she'd said, "I've had enough." But then the way she describes her parents together, and he used to make her laugh till she wept,
Yeah.
the mum, and she just said there was so much love and they were just like peas in a pod. So I think it was really hard for her to process because she just saw these two people that got on so well and really loved each other. Well, you know, people are complicated. You could still love people and still be gay and all of that. But she just did literally grow up. You literally couldn't get a more theatrical background than this. I swear to you.
Yeah, right. So Jennifer Grey and Matthew Broderick go to Ireland for a holiday.
God, yeah, this is terrible.
They kind of have a nice enough time, I guess, but because Broderick's family have a history in Ireland, they have a little cottage there, don't they? Anyway, at one point, the phone rings and it's Matthew Broderick's horrible mum. And she says, "Oh, if you're in Ireland, I'd like to come and stay for a couple of days." Jennifer Grey's like, "No way." She goes, "Take me to the airport." So they get in the car to go to the airport. And then on their way, they have this awful car crash that obviously the way Jennifer tells it in the book, she doesn't know what's happened because there's just no other car there. And she's been
also she was just bending down just to change a tape. That's all she saw. She saw this tape
Do
changing.
you believe that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, you believe everything.
I've no reason not to.
Maybe it was Matthew Broderick's fault and she just, you know, has to say that I didn't see what happened.
No, I don't think so, because I think that would have come out at the time.
But the two people in the other car are unfortunately not here anymore. So the only witness to the whole thing is Jennifer
Yeah, I
Grey.
know.
And conveniently, she didn't see anything.
Yeah, I know. I've always wondered how Matthew Broderick could have killed two people in a car crash when he was driving and got away with it. And this is the answer. She describes it in so much detail. I feel like I've seen it. She's changing the tape. She's taking it out of the thing. She presses play, and there's screaming from Matthew, and everything goes blank. When she comes to, Matthew's unconscious and bleeding profusely from his face. Car's smashed up. She doesn't know what's happened. She gets out. She tries to get him out. She can't. She keeps describing looking up and down the road, and it's absolute stillness. There's nothing else there. She can't work out what happened. And, ages later, if not days later, she finds out that it was a collision with another car, and a woman and her grown-up daughter both killed. And because Matthew Broderick has a total amnesia, and she was looking at the tape deck, she got extensively questioned at the time. She said they went over and over and over trying to get some information out of her, and all she can say was, I was looking at the tape deck. I have no reason not to believe her.
Okay.
That's hanging over him for the rest of his life. He'll never know. They'll never know what happened. And they were going, are you sure he wasn't on the other side of the road because he's American? She was like, no, we let him drive because he's so used to driving on that side of the road. He spent a lot of time in Ireland. And he never goes over to the other side of the road. Never seen him do that. So anyway, that's she's got that hanging over her. She's looking after him in hospital right at the point when she has to fly on Concorde for the Dirty Dancing premiere.
Yeah.
Who would know that she's, you have no clue when you see pictures on red carpets what's going through people's minds or their lives.
Yeah, but Matthew Broderick is so manipulative. Okay, he's really badly injured and he has to be in that hospital for a month. But he's saying to her, don't go to the premiere. And I don't think that's because he's hurting and he wants her there. No. I think he's trying to control her career.
I totally agree. And before that crash even happened, he was saying he refused to go with her.
Yeah, he's a dickhead.
That's for no reason at all.
Yeah.
He really is. Yeah.
He caused a car crash. But Jennifer's mum flew over to Ireland and said to her, you are going to
good
the premiere. He's going to be okay. So she did fly back to the premiere, and she said because obviously she'd been in this traumatic experience and been in the hospital. When she touched down in New York, she said on the paper, on the front page, there was a close-up of her and Patrick Swayze, and she's like, what the hell is going on? This is supposed to be a really tiny sleeper film.
Exactly.
And so she's getting the first indication that this actually might be a bigger thing than anybody expected.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, it exploded.
Didn't it just, hey?
Yeah. Do you know what? I actually looked it up. She got paid 50 grand for that. And that might seem like a lot, but at that time, that translates to about £25,000. It's not tons. And she didn't work again for so long. She was going, I'm too fucking famous to waitress. That's her words.
And that's all she ever got from that film.
Yeah.
That film went on to break box office records and video records. She only ever got her fee because it was a tiny film.
Yeah, and she supported herself right up to this point by being the classic actress waitress. And now she can't be a waitress. She's legend, but she's totally broke. It's absolute madness.
But I do blame Matthew Broderick again because she said after the premiere and she did some press in America.
Yeah.
And then she took back a whole folder of all the reviews and all the stuff with her straight back to Matthew Broderick in hospital. And then when the film had the Europe release, Patrick Swayze did all of the European press by himself because Matthew Broderick wanted Jennifer to stay with him. And when she read him some of the reviews, he said, I don't want to hear any of that.
Yeah.
So she stuck by him. And what happened is that actually that film, even though she was the lead, that film became Patrick Swayze's film and she became known as the girl in the Patrick Swayze movie.
Yes.
She should have been there with him on that press tour and been an equal star. But because she went back to Matthew Broderick and she said she went to the premiere of Dirty Dancing and she felt like she was a bad person. That's totally because of Matthew Broderick.
True.
I don't like him at all.
Is that? But also she's just been in a crash where 2 people have died and you're supposed to go out promoting yourself. I mean, she did say she'd been on a similar journey to Baby in that life was never going to be the same again for her. I mean, it's a lot to deal with. And then she kept messing up auditions after that. She failed. She auditioned for Cocktail and failed. She failed at Working Girl. She turned down loads of parts. You know, it should have been her time.
Yeah, it should have been her time.
It wasn't.
And it's funny because until I read this book, I didn't actually realise that I've never ever seen her in anything else.
Yeah. I know.
Well, I haven't even seen her in Dirty Dancing. I've not seen her in anything.
Yeah, you haven't, have you? And then Bloodhounds on Broadway she did with Madonna, and they got on like a house on fire.
Yeah, I love reading about Madonna in other people's books because actually
Yeah.
she just sounds really nice and a really good friend.
She does, actually.
A really good friend.
She sounded great in this book.
Did you know that Express Yourself was written about Jennifer Grey splitting up from Matthew Broderick?
No. What? That's brilliant.
Isn't that interesting? So when you listen to it again, it's like telling a woman, you know, tell him how you feel and stick to it.
Oh, brilliant.
That's Madonna telling Jennifer Grey, get over Matthew Broderick, he's a dickhead.
Yeah. And she got, when they finally split up, because they got engaged again and then broke up again, she got over him by having a thing with Johnny Depp, which is a brilliant way to get over someone. Of course, it's only on the surface. But he was young, gorgeous.
Yeah.
Oh, the way she describes him pulling up in this car and just describes him as like a vision of beauty.
While they were together, he actually got the role of crybaby. I mean, he never looked better. Actually.
Yeah.
I didn't know they went out, did you?
No idea.
Well, they got engaged.
They're engaged.
And she
then
lived in his leather jacket for like 9 months.
Yeah. And then when he just drifted off and split up with her, the next thing she knows, he's going out with Winona Ryder, who was her next door neighbour.
Yeah, they were friends.
And then she sees pictures of her in the bloody leather jacket, still warm from Jennifer, and that really, really hurt her.
Of course.
Then she really spiralled.
Yeah.
Okay, she's been wrecked the whole time, but it's like, it's sort of social, drinking social. It's all social. So when somebody suggests to her she might be an alcoholic, she's like, God, no, of course I'm not.
Yeah.
But actually, you know, she then went into AA. After she describes this absolutely terrible interview she did on Johnny Carson, which I Googled, it's just not as bad as she thinks.
It's not as bad as she
At
thinks
all.
at all.
It just feels quite normal in
Yeah.
her mind. It's the worst thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
And it just isn't. But it obviously was a trigger because she was drunk and she was probably out of control and she needed to get sober, and she did.
Mm-hmm.
She said it was 10 years since before she went on another chat show, 20 years before she danced again in public.
Wow.
And in that time, basically, she got sober, pretty much gave up acting, or it gave her up. Oh, yeah, because she had this bloody nose job.
Yeah, which, let's be honest, it has really changed her face.
Yeah. And we're saying it last, but she says it at the beginning of the whole book. She does this whole chapter about how she had this nose job and it was perfect. She had a whole year where it looked like her life was going to be better, but there's this tiny bit of bone showing. So she had that fixed and her whole nose totally changed.
Yeah.
And her whole life changed. She walked up a red carpet and no cameras clicked.
Yeah. Well, because they didn't recognise her.
They didn't recognise her. She said she felt like she unwittingly joined a witness protection programme. And she'd go in a deli that she'd been in every week for years and they'd always say hello and nobody said hello. And I like it. I don't like it. But she's at an airport and the woman's checking her ticket and going, oh, Jennifer Grey, like in Dirty Dancing. She went, yeah, well, that's actually me. She went, no, it isn't. Yeah, it is. Look, there's my passport. She went, no, it isn't. Well, it is me. She went, it isn't. I think I know. I've seen Dirty Dancing like 20 times. Imagine how that feels.
And I love that when casting directors used to phone her agent and say, who have you got? And her agent would say, well, I've got Jennifer Grey. She'd be good in this role. And she'd send her stuff through and the casting director would be like, no, so we can't use her. And the agent would be like, why? Because she doesn't look like Jennifer Grey.
I know. And when you actually look at, there's pictures on, obviously on the internet, just a slight adjustment of a nose, you think it couldn't completely change you. It's like Michael Jackson changed his nose completely. You could completely see it was still him. But it's for some random reason, that adjustment of her nose completely renders her unrecognisable. It's bizarre.
Yeah. And I have to say as well, it kind of almost makes her, she's still extremely attractive.
Yeah.
But it makes her like a generic beauty.
Yes, instead of... Yeah.
Whereas that little thing in her nose really made her look different.
Yeah, it really did.
She made herself look like everyone else, basically. So she didn't stand out.
I know, it's so terrible for her.
Do you know what I appreciate, though? Is that we've read all these books about Hollywood and all these actresses. This is the only person who talks extensively about plastic surgery. And it was so refreshing to see somebody talk about it and be honest about it and how it affected their career. Because everybody has it done.
I mean, nobody else has become unrecognisable by a tweak of the nose. It's weird.
No, it's true.
It's so weird.
Yeah, it's true.
Poor woman. It's just, you couldn't make it up. You couldn't see it coming because all of her relatives have had it done. It's just, what?
Yeah.
Anyway, she basically disappears takes acting classes, does little acting jobs here and there, and falls in love, has a baby, falls in love with that baby. And then, I don't know, like 20 years later or something, she goes on Dancing with the Stars and wins.
Oh, did you watch those videos on YouTube?
No.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing. She's so entirely charismatic. They're joyful.
Wow.
Go and watch a couple of those dancing videos. I had no idea she went on it. And
No,
of
nor
course,
did
that's
I.
complete nostalgia for the women sitting at home who are middle-aged now, watching the girl from Dirty Dancing.
Who don't recognise her.
Who don't recognise
Yeah,
her.
okay, who's she? Everyone would be getting to know her as a whole new person. Because also they don't know her, because they only know her as an actor, and I guess that programme really reveals who you actually are.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's done much since, but she's divorced her husband. I Googled it.
Oh, has she really?
He looked lovely.
Yeah, he did look lovely. Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's interesting about Dancing with the Stars is that her friend Marley Martin had been on before and said, you must do it, it will change your life. And before Jennifer Grey went to the first dance rehearsal, she had a medical because she had a stiff neck. And actually, it turns out that her head was almost hanging off her spine for the last 20 years because of that car crash.
Yeah, and if she'd been in a slight jolt, she'd have died. It was hanging by a thread.
Yes, he said to her, if you go on Dancing with the Stars and your partner gives you a quick whip round, it might paralyse you.
Yeah, it's that risky.
But she had an operation very quickly and she was right. So in a way, that kind of did save her, that decision to go on that show.
It did save her life. I know.
I've learnt a lot about spinal health.
Yeah, I know. Very recently, quite a lot. Yeah. Basically, try and keep your head on your shoulders is good advice.
Yeah. I mean, who knew this whole... I didn't really know anything about Jennifer Grey, and I loved this book.
What a life. What an absolutely crazy life. It is a really great book. She's such a cool woman. She's really great. She's been through so much, and she's an absolute inspiration. I don't mind if she works or doesn't work as long as she's happy, whatever she's doing.
I don't know what would have happened with her if she never got her nose done.
She'd have just become a jobbing actor in lots of stuff, and she'd have been beloved.
Can you think of somebody else who was just in a massive, massive era-defining film, a lead, who never really got a job again?
It's like being a one-hit wonder a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. She's like a one-hit wonder.
She's a one-hit wonder of acting. Do you know what? Her daughter's coming up. I Googled her. She's in S.H.I.E.L.D. films and stuff.
Is she really?
She's 22. She did a bit of acting when she was about 13, that sort of age, and then nothing, and now she's out. So they've probably said to her, you should go through school before you become an actor.
Right.
And now she's out, so watch that space. Fourth generation.
Well, what's her nose like? More to the point.
Yeah, actually, weirdly, it looks a lot like Jennifer Grey's corrected nose.
She's probably had it corrected already. So Jennifer Grey said to her, get your nose corrected before you get famous so you look like yourself.
Yeah, before you become
all the way
famous.
through.
Bloody hell. Yeah, we need to look her up.
Yeah, look up her nose.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Thrift Shop Biography. We love making this podcast and we're absolutely thrilled that so many of you are already listening. You could really help us out by leaving us a review somewhere, wherever you listen to this podcast. And if you could share us, tell your friends about us, or drop some links on social media. We have a Facebook page called Thrift Shop Biography, so make sure you come over there to hear about the episodes first and what else we're up to. Okay, see you next week. And if you're new here, there are loads more episodes now to go and listen in the back catalogue, so make sure you go and enjoy them. Okay, thank you very much.